All right, what's up, everybody? We're going to be getting started here in just a minute. Welcome to Temple. We're going to be talking here in the Temple. I'm really excited, and we are looking forward to having a fantastic and phenomenal time tonight. It's going to be great. I've got one heck of a guest on with me tonight, and we're going to talk about some stuff tonight. So listen, just while everybody's coming on, make sure you go ahead and share. Make sure you go ahead and like. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to TIMpleTalk TV right here on YouTube. And listen, also, when you subscribe, hit the bell so you can get all the notifications. Trust me, after we get through burning it up tonight with this conversation, you're going to want to be a part of everything else that we're going to be doing. So welcome, everybody, to the Temple. We are talking in the Temple, and I've got a very special guest tonight. I'll bring him on here shortly. But before we get started, and before we get off into this talk in the Temple, let me ask y'all, how y'all doing? How's everybody doing? How's everything going? How's your day been? How's things been for you? Let me just say this too, for those of you that like to comment and do all of that type of stuff in the Temple, you got to make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, because that way when you subscribe, subscribers' comments can be seen instantly. And so I can promise that you're going to have some comments to say tonight. But listen, y'all know how I do it. We get started with the feed. We get into the focus. We start having fun. We talk about the family. And we always go close out on faith, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not a believer, that's your personal decision. However, I happen to believe, and I have no shame about it. But listen, have y'all been checking out what's happening in the world? Have y'all been checking out what's going on in the world and seeing what's happening, seeing what's going on overseas and everything? Everybody making sure y'all staying up on top of that? Because you need to make sure you stay up on top of that, simply because all of that impacts us. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about how we fail to realize that everything that's taking place overseas, even though it does not look like we're impacted by it, we're impacted by it. And so by all means, I hope that you all are keeping up with everything and making sure that you are staying on top of it on the worldwide situation. And then, of course, on the national scene, did y'all see? Surely y'all saw Donald John Trump in court. The man says he's rich until he's not. The man says, I have all this money, until it starts to look bad for him. Yeah, so the world scene, there's a lot that we could talk about there. The national scene, there's a lot we could talk about. There have been some other shootings, other mass shootings. I want to remind everybody to make sure that you stay diligent, make sure that you stay vigilant on top of, checking your own security and your protection. And then on the national scene, we got all kind of stuff happening economically. I'm not going to get into all that because I want to hurry up and get to the guests. But nonetheless, we're going to deal with the feed news you can use worldwide. Y'all already know what's happening out there. The national news, football is on tonight. Speaking of that, football is on tonight. The Chargers are playing. The Jets are playing. And I expect the Jets to win. Of course, the Chargers, I think, are being picked. And then how about them? Not the, well, Cowboys. Yeah. All of y'all know that I'm a 49er fan. But I'm going to tell you right now, my guest coming on, he's down in H-Town, and that boy C.J. Stroud balled out yesterday. He did his thing. And so really excited for him. And then Josh Dobbs, did y'all check him out? That brother's a quarterback, had never taken a snap on the Minnesota Vikings. Went out there, didn't even know his teammates' names. The dude actually, literally, he has studied to be a rocket scientist, literally. This is like his fifth or sixth team. The dude went on to a pro game yesterday against Atlanta. Had never taken a snap with the team in which he had just arrived to within like days. Goes out, wins the game. That's a brother. He did his thing. State to state, listen, in the state of Texas. I found out something. Let me tell you something. I found out just yesterday. I found out something yesterday I'd never heard of. And I'm going to ask my guest, I'm going to ask Eric when he comes on if he had ever heard of the 1919 race riots in Longview. I had never heard of that until yesterday. It was the craziest thing. So nonetheless, but there's a lot. Do your research, Google everything you don't know, and ask somebody for the rest. All right. So listen, on the social scene, there's a lot happening. Bishop Carlton Pearson, I was just talking to Eric about Bishop Pearson. We'll talk a little bit about that when he comes on as well. But I was just talking, Carlton Pearson, for those of you that don't know Carlton Pearson, um, Carlton Pearson, the major mega conferences, all of these conferences and major conferences that you see around here these days, and all these people having these major and mega conferences that they're having, it all started at the Mabee Center with a conference called Azusa. Carlton Pearson, Bishop Carlton Pearson. So many of the artists that you know, many of the preachers that you all have heard of, those of you, especially all who are in the church world. I know everybody on this podcast ain't necessarily in the church world, but for those of you in the church world, I just wanted to make sure that you understood that Carlton Pearson was germane to the process of jumpstarting all of those great and grand conferences, men's conferences, women's conferences, general conferences, whatever they are. He is in comfort care now, and Bishop Pearson, probably just one of the most brilliant minds I'd ever heard. And certainly we just want to keep that family in prayer, and then everybody else that's contending with bereavement and everything like that. So listen, y'all, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna get ready because I want to bring my guest on. He's my homie, super talented, funny as all get out. Um, I mean, just gifted. I have seen him do his work in major churches, Riceville, Mount Olive. I'll let him tell you more about everything that he's up to. Matter of fact, when I bring him on, I'm just going to have him tell y'all everything that he's up to. But I want y'all to welcome to the TIMple, my man, 100 grand, the one and only, the overseer. Tell him about the gun line, boss. Eric B. Davis. What's going on, man?
What's up? What's up?
What's happening? I need you to calm that energy down. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, come on here, try to have all that bass.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Listen, hey, man, good to see you. Good to have y'all, man. I appreciate you jumping on and coming into the temple.
Thanks for having
Absolutely, man. We're really happy to have you, man. I had some people asking me. They were like, "Say, man, what's this? What's this? Cancel me? Nah. What's that topic about?"
me.
And so
Yeah.
one of the things that, like I chopped it up with you about, one of the things that as we get ready to get into this topic tonight, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did in keeping it 100 with myself and being the authentic person I am, I like to confront the things that concern people, right? I think
Right.
I don't run from stuff that I fear. I attack it. And so you may remember a few years ago, um, Dave Chappelle had his Netflix out, came out.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about the backlash until we found out that one of his best friends, had been in the transgender world. So everybody tried to cancel him. Of course, David
Mm-hmm.
has, he's got enough money and he's got enough cachet himself to where he's not worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, man, on how um, preachers and pastors and professionals and networks and organizations and everybody in this politically correct society tend to skip around and skirt around things that are in our face on a daily basis, fearing the threat
Mm-hmm.
of this cancel culture. Obviously, when we talk about the LGBTQIA plus community, there are levels of heightened sensitivity that people come in and bring to the table as though that it is a brittle topic or it's filled with brittle individuals. And you of course, me and Dre, we talked about you all the time, man. Because I was like, man, the way you be in that gym, I mean, just buff, I'm I really I really do get kind of jealous, bro. I ain't gonna lie, man, because I'm like, I mean, just I gotta get these guns like I need to. But anyway, but the whole cancel me. Let me check in. The whole cancel me. My thing is, I've always believed that you cannot, make an impact and you cannot take action on anything that you're unwilling to address. And you can't
Absolutely.
address, right? You can't address
Hmm.
anything that you're unwilling to acknowledge. And
Right.
so before I turn it over to you, let me just let the audience know that I know who I have on site with me and on the set with me and in the temple with me right now. This is my
Hmm.
friend and this is my brother, Eric B. Davis. He's an openly gay minister in the church. Matter of fact, he's an overseer. And there are few people that I get to have open and honest and real and authentic and just keep it 100 conversations with. But Eric is a dude that I wanted to reach out to because I think that this conversation will help some of you all who are watching us tonight and some of you all who are in professions or in pastoral positions or preaching positions. You don't have to skirt around topics. You don't have to skirt around subject matters, and you don't have to act like that there's going to be a big boogeyman that's coming out after you. As long
Right.
as you are having conversations that are based in compassion and you're not sitting
Hmm.
up here trying to hate on anybody, whether it's the LGBTQIA plus community, whether it's race hate, whether it's economic hate, social hate, whatever it is. And so I invited Eric to be a part of this podcast tonight, and we chop it up and talk it up in the temple. And we're just going to talk about a few things that some of y'all may either be afraid to ask or to talk about, to broach, because you're concerned about being canceled. Let me just say this right quick. I ain't worried about being canceled. Hey, Eric, I ain't worried about being canceled, man. I'm booked because I'm hired by somebody, watch this, who no cancellation can be overridden by. I ain't got no
Absolutely.
help up in here. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
anyway, man, Eric, I'm glad to have you on, bro. Man, just it's so so good. You're back in H Town. I know you've been in Atlanta and everywhere else. Introduce yourself
Yeah.
to the audience. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you got up now, and we're gonna dive off into this topic, man, of the
Okay.
LGBTQIA plus community, the faith community, and the social statuses that surround them both.
Got you. Well, I'm Eric Davis. I'm born, not born and raised, but pretty much raised in Third Ward. Um,
Trey.
I grew up. I grew up in Christian Hope Baptist Church, 3418 Anita Street. My pastor was Herbert Stroman. So I grew up around the greats. Our minister of music was called Preacher, which is my godfather.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me everything I know.
Amazing organist.
Growing up in Christian Hope, huh?
I said he was an amazing organist.
Yes, nobody like
Yeah.
him.
Southeast
Um,
Inspirational Choir.
Absolutely. I was just about to say that. Growing up in Christian Hope, I was around the best of the best as it relates to the music. Our choir was phenomenal. Our pastor was phenomenal. We were exposed to phenomenal preachers and phenomenal singers all the time. And you can't be around that greatness and it don't rub off on you. So I learned that. I learned the technique and the standards to develop a powerful music department, as you can see at Riceville,
Mm-hmm.
and other churches that, I won't name. I've worked in a couple of churches in my career. I've been doing this about 30 years. I
Mm-hmm.
am 49 years old, believe it
Oh
or not.
boy.
I'm 49. My oldest is 25. My son, Deuce, he'll be 21 December 31st. And my baby girl, Evan, it just made me a grandfather on October 18th.
Wow.
first grandchild, and it's a boy.
Congratulations, man.
I was proud of that because I started a tradition with my children naming their names with an E and 4 letters.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my son, but he's my grandson, and she kept that trend going. So I'm glad about that. And I've been home since last week here in Houston, so I can help spoil it. Yeah, I'm gonna spoil him
Yeah,
and send him back. That's what I'm gonna do.
that's what's up.
But yeah, man, I've been preaching since what, '96, and I had to find my way. I had to find
Mm-hmm.
my way in ministry. I had to find out what style fits me, how I want to deliver. And God doesn't waste nothing. That's what I remember and what I realized in this walk. God does not waste a thing. And so God had to teach me over the years how to be who he's called me to be and be the man that he's made me to be. And it took a while for me to get it. And we'll talk about that later on.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I am a Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, tongue talking, laying hands preacher who happens to be gay. Gay is my way of love. That's the way I express love and receive love. I prefer male over female. That's it. Other than that, I'm all man.
Hey,
A lot of people.
listen, man, you just hit it right there, and I can imagine, like, it's just like
Yeah,
you know how the response is. I wasn't
a
ready for
lot
you
of
to
people
say it
don't.
like that.
They don't get it. They don't understand. A lot of people equate gay man to weak man. Gay is just my sexual perception. That's my sexual preference.
Mm-hmm.
Not It's not who I am. That's just the way I express, my love or whatever. But some people equate gay man to weak man, and I'm far from weak.
Yeah, Doc,
Like I said, I
you're
grew
a gym rat.
I grew I grew up in Third Ward, so
Yeah.
it's a thug underneath all of this.
Ah,
I just chose not to wear the white t-shirts and the saggy jeans and all of that. I know people
right,
in high places and people in low places. I ain't
right on.
always been saved. So that's just
Right,
the way. That's my preference. So that's
yeah,
it. Other than that, I'm a man. I like facial hair. I don't carry a purse and wear makeup and all of that. To each his own.
right,
That's just not my testimony.
right on,
And
right
I
on.
think we all mix it up, and we could talk about that later on. But I think we all mix it up. But the I'll say this, and we can move on.
Go
The
ahead.
image of a gay man now is not the image of the gay man 20, 30 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Back in the
listen.
They all
Well,
look
you've
like
you've been
holiday
following the
party.
Dwight Howard thing and everything else, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah, I
sad. It's sad. It's
saying
sad because this
sissy.
man, so he has to lie or
Hmm.
deny different things because of want to be labeled.
Hmm.
Because of this culture where everybody has something to say. But because we have such a big presence in social media now, everybody feels that they can say whatever they want to. But on the flip, when you are a public figure, you're out there for the public to scrutinize and criticize you.
Yeah,
That goes with the territory.
yeah.
You can't be in the public, live your life in the public, but you want to keep things private. At some point, your private is going to be public as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and especially when you're on those main stages like that. And that gives me a good
Absolutely.
segue. That gives me a good segue on something because when I talk to you, I said, I want to talk about this whole LGBTQIA plus community and the community of faith.
Let's talk about it.
We have a lot of leaders and people who have been living that public life, especially in the community of faith. And
Absolutely.
we have found out by no uncertain means that it was something
Absolutely.
totally different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I've I've seen that and heard it all my life.
yeah, so how I'm a big HIV/AIDS prevention, intervention, education, um,
Mm-hmm.
proponent since
Right.
'99, 2000, National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. Been a big proponent of that. World AIDS Day, not because um, not because I'm gay, because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gay.
Right.
Never been gay. Never thought of being gay. Got a lot of problems. Gay is not quote unquote. You understand what I'm saying when I say
Right.
how they got so many problems. But
Yeah.
I've always been an advocate of just having conscious community conversation. And I used to get scrutinized, man, on World AIDS Day or on National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. They would say, "Man, why you doing you doing that gay ministry, et cetera, et cetera." And the reality for me is that
Mm-hmm.
that whole HIV, that whole component, it spread far beyond the quote unquote gay community. Matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact,
It's not just a
it
gay disease.
exactly. There were more when I got involved with that advocacy. There were more women between the ages of 25 and 44 that were dying from not the virus but the disease, because people don't know
Right.
that. And I'm not going to educate them tonight because I want to talk about some other stuff.
Right.
But the virus is not the disease, right? And
Absolutely.
so for me, I was sitting there looking like you can sit up there and not look at that community or try to just dismiss it. But
Mm-hmm.
because of what you just said a little bit earlier, guys were living public lives and having secret lifestyles. And those
Absolutely.
lifestyles were leaking over into the mainstream of community. And because no one was willing to have the conversation about it, and no one was
Mm-hmm.
willing to confront it with a conversation,
Right.
we just kept perpetuating.
Bro, I've always been a public figure.
Hmm.
Everybody knows me in Houston. I
Absolutely.
can't go anywhere without bumping into somebody who's heard me sing, heard me preach, saw me direct, or anything. Everybody knows me. And I've never been one of those people. I've always lived a life of discretion. I
Hmm.
kept my private life private. Um, because my sexual preference has nothing to do with my ministry.
And
When I'm
watch
at
this, Eric.
church and
You
I'm
you were married, right?
yes, I was married to my
Hmm.
kid's mother for years.
Hmm.
And in the midst of us being married, I'm up. I'm ministering to people. I'm prophesying. I'm directing the choir. People are seeing me and my wife minister together. They
Hmm.
see kids coming into church every Sunday. But I had young men that were idolizing me and looking up to me, thinking that I had answer. And I began to feel like I was living a lie because, yes, I have a beautiful wife, beautiful family, but they don't know that the struggle is still there and it's yet prevalent in my life because, yeah, I know how to put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, come there and huckable shy and run and dance and huckabuck and all that stuff. But that struggle, that thorn in my flesh was still waiting for me every day.
Hmm.
So I'm just not one. I don't lie very well. I'm not fake at all. And at some point, it began to be more of uh, a weight
Mm.
because I knew I still battled with this. I knew I still struggled with it. So, long story short, our marriage ended. I left the church that I was at, and I began to kind of go into hiding.
Hmm.
And I had a very dear friend of mine. I got to give him props, Pastor Dexter Kyle, Dexter Bernard Kyle. We share the same middle name. I
Hmm.
happened to be at his church, and he was preaching, and he stopped in the middle of his message, and he came over there by me. He said, "You need to get back in touch with Eric." Eric wasn't a bad dude. Not Elder
Mm-hmm.
Davis, not Reverend Davis, not Minister of Music, not that. Eric. You need to get in touch with Eric again. Eric wasn't a bad dude. God has need of Eric. And it caused me to reevaluate myself. And once it didn't make sense to me then, but once I moved to Atlanta, to embrace my singing career and acting career. You know, that's the Hollywood of the South.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there were rumors saying, "Oh, Eric wouldn't move to Atlanta so he can really be gay." No, that wasn't the issue. I wanted to move to Atlanta for one. I couldn't be Eric here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had their speculations. Everybody had their their theories that I might be, I might not be, or whatever. But I couldn't be Eric. You know, people just wouldn't accept that. Dear people to me could not accept Eric being gay. But it's this thought in the back of your mind, you just don't want to accept it. So I left. I left and I end up coming in contact with a guy that I followed for years, living here in Houston, Bishop Courtney Jones. And he
Mm-hmm.
happened to be talking about fathering, spiritual fathers on a Facebook Live. And that subject has always been a sore spot for me. And I called him and I told him that's something that I wrestle with because I never really felt I had a spiritual father. I never felt that I was groomed for ministry. I felt like even as a man, I
Mm-hmm.
caught it. I caught it. So I didn't feel as secure and confident stepping to the pulpit, yet I dealt with so much jealousy and intimidation. As long as Eric is singing, that's a good thing. But as soon as he started preaching, watch out.
Mm.
I don't know why, but I did. So Bishop Jones told me, he said, "Eric, I'm like God, man. I don't believe God sees gender. I believe God sees spirit. I don't see gender. I see spirit. And as your pastor, as your leader, it's my job to get you on these stages and these platforms so the people of God can hear the word out of your mouth." He said, "I don't care how I articulate it, how I put it together. It's not going to stick and it's not going to mean the same thing unless it comes out of your mouth. There is a people who need to hear the word of God out of your mouth."
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, against my better judgment and against I felt, I just kind of submitted to my let
Mm-hmm.
him do what God was leading him to do. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, he had me back in ministry again. He had me back because man, I sway from ministry altogether. I threw all my collars, my cassets, my
I remember.
robes, I threw all that stuff in the trash. I didn't want nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Under this man's leadership, he had me back in civic attire. He had me back in the pulpit,
Yeah, I saw.
just in his own way, kind of leading me from behind. Had
Mm-hmm.
me officiating service, had me directing choirs again, had me doing intercessory prayer. And I also got a chance to do preacher duties. I never got a chance to serve communion because I always directed and always played.
Right.
So
Right.
I
Let
was
me
getting
ask you a
stuff
question, man.
too.
Let me ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
Because you were saying something a minute ago, and I was like, I got to remember to ask this question.
Okay.
What percentage, and this is just your own um, hypothesis,
Okay.
but what percentage of men out there today
Hmm.
do you believe are living that same life that you lived in that same way right now?
You want me to be honest, right?
Yeah, because let me tell you why I asked the question. Because
Hmm.
I know if you want to know about that community, you talk to the folk in that community.
Right.
So what? Yeah, be honest.
I would say 75 to 80%,
What?
if not more. 75 to 80%.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I understood my question. I know you understood it.
Mm-hmm.
My question was, Eric, what percentage of men do you think today are living the lifestyle that you just described yourself living when you were married and dealing with being gay?
Mm-hmm.
And you said what?
75 to 80%. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every man
I understand.
wants to live that lifestyle, but you got to put all of these things into play. There are so many men who rather go with that traditional image for, especially in the church,
Right.
because it looks better when you are a married man with children. It looks better. If you're a single man, questions are going to be asked. Well, who is his woman? Well, either he must be either down low or he must be a player.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. It looks better for the church. There are so many. You know what's going on in November down in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
There, there are so many with this image because you feel that's what you have. That's the image you have to portray in order to be accepted, to be elevated, to be promoted, and to be selected as leaders in that organization. You have to fit this image. But
Wow.
even though you have image, let me tea.
Mm-hmm.
Even though
Yeah.
you have this image, you going up days earlier so you can get an extra room for you and your toys. But next week, when your wife comes in, she's gonna have a separate room. I ain't trying to be messy, but I'm just talking facts. I'm
Yeah. I
talking about
mean,
what I know.
that's what I'm saying.
You know, but you rather do that than be who you. And so what I'm tired of, I've dealt with all of the backlash. I've dealt with all of the rumors and all of that. I've dealt with all of that, so you won't have to do it. So when a scandal comes, now you embarrassed, you on suicide watch. You have a
Mm-hmm.
woman who has become bitter and humiliated in the face of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Go ahead. You need to get that. Go ahead. You can get that.
I'm
All right. I muted you out.
so
Go ahead.
thank you. So I mean you got this going on. So I hate to see that. I really know in my heart of hearts, I hate to see that. But when you know what you struggle with and you still try to pretend, at some point you got to come out of character. And a lot of
And
times, because you don't dot all your I's and you don't cross all your T's, people feel like, "Ooh, I found something out," and then you have to be outed. They have to force you out versus you controlling the narrative, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to control the narrative, yeah, because I got tired of the rumors, I got tired of the speculations and all of that. I'm not. I don't brag or am I arrogant, but I'm not a bad dude at all. I
no,
have a
I've
good
been
heart.
knowing you a long time,
I,
bro.
I'm like the Lord. I change not. I'm the same way 24/7. You can go away from me for years at a time. When you come back, Eric is still gonna be Eric. I'm gonna state it, relate it, cuss you and dare you to bleed. Cut you, cuss you,
Mm-hmm.
and dare you to bleed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. I no need to change it. This is me.
So,
What you
man,
see is what you get.
yeah. So this is my podcast. So this is not for those of you that are watching or those of you that watch this replay. Don't y'all start trying to over theologize this podcast because this ain't what the temple is about. The temple is about having this real conversation and really getting down to the bottom line of matters. So Eric, so with as much as you could say about your own, we'll say, hypothesis or
Mm-hmm.
observations.
Right.
Would you say that there are notable names that struggle with that?
Allegedly.
We'll leave it at that.
Allegedly.
Okay, leave it at that. Listen, man.
No,
Let me.
I
Let
like
me.
to give. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt for one, and give them the grace that I needed myself.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I had to wait until I was ready to embrace it. For so long, man, people didn't. That's the thing. People feel like they're gonna lose so much if they come out. But
Yeah.
who says that you have to live your life the way an average gay male lives his life? It's your life. You can live it the way you want to live it.
Yeah. I was just
I'm
about to
not at
say.
I'm not
That,
at every function. And to be
right.
honest, with the whole LGBTQIA plus, dude, I'm so confused.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm so
that's a lot of
confused with
alphabets,
the
bro.
whole pronouns and all this. I'm
Yeah.
confused. I didn't come up with all of that.
Now,
Either
see,
you
that's
gay or you
interesting.
straight.
That's interesting that you said that because when you talk about the alphabet people, quote unquote, you're a gay man, and you said you're even confused.
I am. I'm totally confused
Hey,
because now everything is so itemized. Everything is so different. You got non-binary. You got.
yeah, I don't
I don't
understand.
understand all of that.
Yeah.
I
Have you
just
seen the
don't. And
genderbread person?
the who?
The
Are you
genderbread
serious?
person. Have you seen that?
No,
I'm gonna send
no.
it to you. And those of you that are watching, Google the genderbread person, and they're literally teaching this in the at the primary levels where they're having to learn about pansexuality, binary, non-binary, leaning masculine. And I'm like, and so for you to say what you just said, that makes me feel better. Because hell, I'm up here. I know I was
And
confused.
bro, what's so crazy about it is even when you're filling out applications for a job, they asking you what pronouns do you go by and all of that. Okay, so let's look at it like this: from someone who's a part of the community.
Correct.
What if they don't know what pronouns are? What if they don't understand? Only way you're gonna find out that I go by pronouns and all this kind of stuff is by asking me, right? So
Hmm.
if you don't know, I can't get offended because you didn't use the right pronouns. You don't know. So it's always
This
an
is why I wanted
opportunity
you
for
on the
learning.
podcast tonight. Because if I start saying something like that, and this is why I said this whole cancel me, nah, you can't cancel me because I have friends in the community
Mm-hmm.
who will tell you what I'm telling you. I don't understand this pronoun, him, them, they, this, and all that.
I don't understand it. I really don't. I
And
don't understand it.
you don't get to call me homophobic or anything like that because I don't understand it.
You're
And
just
there
not
is no
educated.
right.
And there are people in the community who will explain or educate even if you ask them a question.
Hmm.
I was watching college what is the name of the show? It's a reality show where they have celebrities
Hmm.
um on College Hill. It's called College Hill. And
Yeah.
on this season they had Big Freedia, New Orleans, the
Hmm.
Queen of Bounce music, and they had I forgot this rapper's name, but he's here, Slim Thug, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, Slim Thug, and he was saying that he never grew up around or hung out with people like Frida. Well, Big Frida goes by. She was like, to my kids, they call me Ma. To brothers, I'm they bro. To my sisters, they call me sis. It's like that. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't get offended if somebody says something else because I'm into everybody. So he
Mm-hmm.
asked questions, and I like the way Big Frida explained it to him and I like the way he approached it. He really genuinely wanted to understand
Yeah, I'm
how
just
to,
curious.
like, I don't want to disrespect you or whatever. So what do I call you? And she explained it to him. She was like, I'm getting into all of that. Just like me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hold you accountable for something that you don't know. Now,
Right.
because of how I carry myself and don't come at me talking about girl and sis. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. That's the best way to get body slammed. I'm
Uh-huh.
man. I'm Eric. I'm not. No, don't call me girl. I don't snap my finger. I don't pop my lips. I don't do that. That's just
I didn't mean to laugh,
I,
boy, but that was fun. That was funny how you said that.
yeah, man. Don't do that. No, no.
You ain't no
You call
sis.
me your bro. No, don't. I don't like that. I am a man, and all of my functions work fine. Eric, Evan, Aaron, they all work.
Boy, that was hilarious. Well, I mean, because see, again, watch this, man. It's this kind of conversation because I've been knowing you. And I'm like,
Yeah,
if you see Eric on the street, I mean, Eric look like, I mean, that boy get at you, right?
my
But I
kids have to
also
jump
know,
to
yeah,
my kids
but
have
I
to
also
jump
know, I'm
in.
like, Eric look like he'll get at you, but I know Eric like dudes.
Yeah,
But I'm not, for me, and I know, don't go up to Eric saying sis, honey child, don't do all
yeah.
that high pitched voice and all. Don't do none of that.
And
Not with you.
I've had to tell as soon as they find like, yes, I'm like, you ain't got to do all of that. You ain't got to do all of that.
Ah,
I'm not that. I'm not that gay. The gay guy. I'm not that.
you,
No, not that. You
you're
ain't got
not
to do
that
all
gay
that.
guy.
Change your voice back to where it was a few
Ah,
minutes
ah,
ago.
ah.
We can
Wait,
talk
Eric,
regular.
wait, when you tell them that, when you tell them that you're gay, what they say?
They don't believe it.
I mean, how they say
They,
yes? How they say
yes. No,
yes?
no, no, no. No, you ain't got to do all of that. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We can
Oh my
laugh,
God.
but you all of that. I'm sorry. I'm
Right,
not. I'm
right.
not.
Well, listen, man, because I don't want to run out of time, man. We got some. Shout out to my cousin
Roll.
Kendrick, man, from the Sports Hustle. Appreciate you watching, man. Um, a few things here. So, so why do you think people are afraid to speak openly on this subject? Especially with this
It's
whole concern of being canceled.
it's simple. You just answered it a few minutes ago. Now
Mm,
you just explained to us that you are a part of the HIV/AIDS. Educating people and all that, right?
hmm
But because you support that, people think that why are you doing that? Like you shouldn't. A lot of people do not want to um, speak up or be allies or advocates for the LGBT community
hmm
because they're afraid of being labeled.
Right.
Now, I can't. Now I can add you to that list. But my bishop, Courtney Montez Jones, is a heterosexual male, and
hmm
he ally for the community. He is.
hmm
He will jump to our defense. I mean, because he tell people all the time. He was like, "Why can't I? You can't catch the gay. You can't go in the room
Right.
and come out gay
And let me
because
tell you
you've been
something.
in there talking
And watch this. Speaking of that,
fellowshipping with gays."
and tell me if I'm right. Because cats who
Okay,
are just always concerned about being around gay dudes, and something wrong with you.
absolutely.
See, you
I've
suspect.
had to
See, for me, I ain't worried about. I mean, you gay. I'm not gay, but that doesn't
I've
mean
had to keep
that.
my eyes straight. As you
Say it
stated,
again.
I go to the gym. I work out a lot,
Yeah.
and I've been in a barbershop and they were talking about, topics or whatever that was going on at that time. And I just sat there and I was quiet. And so this guy was just like, yeah, man, I don't go to that gym no more because it just be a bunch of gays in there. And I was trying to bench press. And this gay guy was waiting to bench press. He gonna ask me, can he jump in and get a set? I was like, nah, man, go use that one. And I don't know. I don't have to change my gym. And I was like, hey, bro, let me ask you a question. He was like, yeah, what's up? I was like, what makes you think that just because he wanted to use that particular machine or those particular bars and weights, that he was coming after you?
Right.
Well, because I was like, what makes you think that you're all that he wants to come over there and use that machine just because you were using it? What makes you think that you're all of that he wants you?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I was like, exactly.
See, to me, Eric, when you're too homophobic, you suspect. I mean,
Absolutely. It's something that
because for
I
me,
run away from.
yeah, because for me, I
Absolutely.
mean, I don't change who I am or whatever. I kind of share with you about the young fella that slid into my DM.
Right.
Talking about, hey man, I want to holler at you, want to know, if you understood why I was trying to holler at you, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want no problems. I said, no, you don't want no problems. I know what you're trying to do. I ain't down with it. But look here, young man, go ahead, live your life. Because I had to also, if I'm the man I say I am, man, I can't put you in a position where you're going to go and hurt yourself off of something I say.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't feel right.
Right.
And so my thing was, hey, bro, I don't know what you thought. I don't know what you felt like, but I didn't go off on some type of homophobic rant because
We
there
still
was a
have a.
guy second.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Ain't nothing about me that says check.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying, right? But I also know
You all.
this. What were you going to say?
We all have a responsibility.
Bottom line.
Being called, we still have a responsibility for handling God's people correctly.
Bottom line, man. And that's part of this whole conversation for me that I thought was very important because I'm sure, and anybody that wants to come and try to give me the backlash for this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I hope you smoke cigars because that's the only smoke you probably want. I can promise you that. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
my thing is, as far as people being afraid of it, you know, I believe in, like I said, man, I attack what I fear or I confront what I'm confused
Mm-hmm.
about. I ain't got no problem with that.
Right.
So tonight, man, just for the next few moments, man, and I appreciate the conversation, man. I appreciate you taking the time out
No problem.
with me. Yeah. Let me ask you this, man, because I've heard this. To you, what's the comparison, or is it a comparison between quote unquote gay rights and civil rights? Because I have a couple of cousins, and I
Mm-hmm.
have family that's gay. I mean, I have male and female family that's gay. That's why for me, man, it's just what life is, and I'm gonna love you anyway, right?
Right.
But I had to tell one of my cousins, and I had to get her to understand. Um, I don't appreciate you denouncing the reality of your blackness so that you can pronounce your homosexuality more. Because the
Mm-hmm.
one thing I do know is I'm black and can't help it. And
Mm-hmm.
even whatever your position is, Lady Gaga, I was born this way, whatever. What I don't want is for you to try to bury the civil rights actions that people have died for, that are part of your social culture and ethnic
Mm-hmm.
culture, to raise up, and let me back up, part of your ethnic culture. Don't denounce your ethnic culture because you're sold out more to a social culture
Right.
because you want to try to press a point. Was I wrong in my approach in that? I'm just curious from your standpoint.
No, we still have, like I said earlier, we still have responsibility. We still have. I have a responsibility as a black man
Mm-hmm.
to stand up for what my grandparents and great grandparents
That's all I was
did
saying. Mm-hmm.
for us. And now, on the flip, there are rights as a gay man that I should have. If
Mm-hmm.
I want to get married, and I was married,
Uh-huh.
um, if I want to be married, I have that to marry who I want, male or
Mm-hmm.
female.
Yep. That's the law of
If
the land.
and yes, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, because there are so many issues with like if a loved one dies, or adding your partner to
Right.
your medical
Insurance
insurance.
and right. I remember that.
We're
Yeah.
married, so why can't I add my partner to my medical benefits at my job? You
Yeah.
know, if I want to list my partner as my beneficiary on my life insurance policy or my 401k and profit sharing, if I want to list my partner on my benefits, I should have the right to do that.
And let me
Just
park there right
as
quick, Eric. Let me park there right quick. Because I wanna
okay,
pause for this station identification for people to understand. The conversation we are having is a constitutional conversation. So for those of you who are trying to theologize this conversation, stay away from that. We are talking about law, legality,
yes,
and constitutional conclusions.
right,
And you're exactly right. If the rights are yours, then we have to make sure that according to the law of this land, those rights are as protected as any other
right,
right, because if it has become law of the land and they're not protected and they get
mm-hmm,
compromised, let me help my Black, African American, Negro, colored culture people of the ebony hue. Let me help you understand why we have to make sure we keep an eye on that. Whether you agree with those laws being in place or not, the horse is already out the stable. It's
mm-hmm,
in place. And so now, if one law can be compromised, or if one constitutional conclusion can be compromised, every other one can. So now
mm-hmm,
it's best that from a constitutional slash legal slash national law position and perspective, it's
mm-hmm,
best that you keep an eye on all of that. Because
yeah,
if you can retract this, you can retract that. We already see the whole Roe v. Wade. I won't get into all that. But I just wanted to park there because of what you were talking about, because I didn't want people to say, or to think that we're trying to mix what we're talking
right,
about civility with Christianity, or what I'm saying, or
yeah.
spirituality. So
You
that's
have that
that's a
right.
great statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was all. That was it. That was
Yeah.
all I want to say.
So
We have that
here's
right.
exactly, you have a right. If it's on the books. So whether you
Mm-hmm.
agree with it, whether you like it or not, it's on the book, right?
Right.
And so we have to make sure that we stand in solidarity with what the books of the Constitution and the laws of the land say. But here's a question, man, and I'm really interested in hearing your. We're gonna run, audience. I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna run over a few minutes. Um,
Okay.
how uh, how does the community address procreation?
You mean as far as like children?
Yeah, I mean,
Um.
like you know, have you seen that on social media where the guy says, if you put 10 men and I think he said 100 transgender women on an island, um, it'll become extinct or something. I don't know what he said. But if you put the same 10 men on an island with 100 women, civilization will last for millions of years. So my question about procreation is, how is that reconciled within the gay community, how does procreation take place within the union?
I don't think that just because a heterosexual woman has sex with a gay man, that that child, male or female, is going to come out gay.
Mm-hmm.
I think once a child comes into the world, they have their own identity. Yeah, they may be born male and female, have female genitalia or male genitalia, but they have their own identity. I can't say that I was born gay, but what I will say
Mm-hmm.
is, as far as I could remember, I've had these desires, I've had these feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't act on it, but they were there. I was married and I have 3 children, 3 beautiful children, and none of my children came out gay.
Mm-hmm.
However, if one of my children come to me and says, "Dad, I'm gay," my answer is
Right.
simply, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you are still my daughter, you're still my son,
Right.
whatever." Now my own personal belief. I don't understand how, and this is for my transgender brothers and sisters, I still don't really understand how you can say that you feel that you are a girl inside. You're a boy, but you feel like you're a girl on the inside. Now, my comfort growing up and accepting my sexuality has always been God does not make mistakes. Everything that God does, he does on purpose with purpose in mind. That's been my comfort,
Mm-hmm.
not nobody else's. I'm speaking about
It's
my
your
own
right.
my own testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you feel like you are a girl inside, but you were born a boy? Why can't you just be a gay boy or a gay man or a
Mm-hmm.
gay girl or a lady or whatever, But to go and have to change your name and have surgeries and all of that kind of stuff, that's just something that I don't understand. I
Mm-hmm.
love them, no judgment or anything, but that's just something that I have not been able to um rest in my
Yeah.
mind. I do want to understand. I really do. I want to understand it. I want to understand that whole part. It's just a lot to have to go through getting surgeries and changing your name
Yeah. That's
legally and all of that kind of stuff. That makes me feel like God made a mistake. So because God made a mistake with me being a male, I have to change myself to a woman.
yeah. Yeah.
Something that I really wrestle with, even in the community.
Yeah. I tell
I don't
people
judge anybody if
here's one of the
you
things that
say
I
that's
say with.
what
Oh, go ahead,
you,
Eric.
you say that's I embrace it and I respect it.
Yeah.
But that's still a question and something in me that I really want to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I say regarding that, I preached. I remember some years ago. I preached the City of Refuge, San Francisco. Bishop Yvette Flunder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by that time, she had been married to her wife for like 30 years. I mean, she's been out there for a long time on the wall for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was pastoring out in the Sacramento Elk Grove area, and I don't even know how I got this invitation, but I just know that I was always a fan of Bishop Yvette Flunder. I used to love to hear her sing.
Right.
I thought she was one of the most beautiful women in the world. I didn't even know she was
Mm-hmm.
gay, right? Because I mean, I just wouldn't. I don't look for that stuff, right?
Right.
So I get there and I have some gay relatives, Of course, I invite them to come over. And I asked some pastor friends of mine. They were like, "Man, you going over there to preach at that gay church, et cetera, et cetera." Because the church, they had transsexual, transgender, openly gay, et cetera, et cetera. And I have photos. I don't have video, but I have photos from when I was preaching there.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I had to, what really stuck in my mind was that I did not have to compromise nor adjust my
Mm-hmm.
theological constitution nor my
Mm-hmm.
preaching for them to be receptive.
Absolutely.
Can I tell you, I didn't change up one thing. I didn't
Yeah.
go in with a compromise. I wasn't going in saying, "Oh, I got to be careful not to say this or not to say that." I stayed with everything that was within my text, which again kind of brings me back to tonight's topic as far as this whole I'm not worried about being canceled because I'm coming from a place that I believe that God wants us to come from as far as giving compassion. If I shared this the other day. If you want me to talk about the homo, then I also have to talk about the mo.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Right?
Absolutely.
And so when I went to that church though, and that's kind of what brought me to the question I'm asking you. I'm wondering, let's just say for the sake of this conversation, the whole world is gay. Okay. You have transgender, transsexual, and everybody's gay. How does humanity continue if the homosexuality does not produce or reproduce creation? How does that reconcile? Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
just curious. I mean, and you may not have the answer. I'm only asking just because it's just really a curious question.
Uh, I don't
You
know
know, you know what
because
I mean?
I still believe that two gay men or two gay women can still raise a heterosexual daughter or son.
Yeah, that's not the.
You're
I get that part. I get that part.
you're not
I'm talking
raising
about
you're not raising a
where
child.
does the baby come from?
Well, there are some guys who do the surrogacy.
Hmm.
Let's look at it like this: the Brat and
Oh
Judy,
yeah,
they just had a baby,
right,
and out of the two, um, the Brat was able to carry. So the
right.
Brat carried the baby. It's their baby.
Right.
Also, I can't think of their names right now, but there are two guys who both gave a sperm sample to impregnate the surrogate mother.
Hmm.
Now, one of the guys' sperm took, the other guys didn't, but that's still their baby. That's how they are, reproducing. They both submitted, but your sperm took. It don't mean that his is. It's not because he didn't carry. He didn't take your sperm sample or whatever. It's not that. But they both submitted, and you have even some gay women who can still
Hmm.
bear children that will be your surrogate mother. They don't want
So
anything
really,
to do with the baby other than to carry it for you to. And there is a contract. There is a price tag with it,
right,
and
right. So you're talking about the
of course go
process
through.
of how that
Yeah,
works.
you go through
Yeah.
the whole
So
legal process of it, and you
right,
do it. Now it's
right. So
expensive.
right. So the brat and her wife.
Uh
I
huh.
guess this is where I'm going with it. And I think I was just looking. Kendra was saying if there's no procreation, humanity doesn't exist. So the question, and I guess the question I have and I think I'm getting the answer to it. In that community, procreation is not expected, obviously, within the unions because it's impossible, right?
Well, that's what.
And so you have the workarounds that you were just kind of talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Because I was just wondering, because I'm like, okay, so if and the question about gay parents raising the straight kids, that's already been answered because there's several, men and women who have been raised by, same sex
Right.
partners that, that are heterosexual. But I was just
Hmm.
curious about the actual procreation aspect itself. But in the community, the workarounds are the processes that you talked about. Let me ask a couple of more
Hmm.
questions, man. So, you know, what are your thoughts? Or let me ask this: Is there or has there been an intentional and or strategic movement in your eyes to push the LGBTQ agenda? Let me tell you why I say that. Why I asked the question. Empire. Remember that show? All of a sudden, we start seeing. I mean, just almost where it's almost like, whoa! It just hit me in the face, right?
Hmm.
Power.
Hmm.
Boom! Just hit me in the face. Um,
Hmm.
Victarvi commercials or
Yeah.
whatever. Just do you think or do you feel because this is what has been said that the community is pushing its position into the mainstream purposefully and can do it because that community has so many power players in it.
I would say that it's that precise. What I will say is it's the world that we're living in.
Right.
Um, yeah, as a gay male, I'm an actor too. I'm an actor. I'm a
Right.
singer. Um,
Right.
I've had my hand in a couple of movies and stuff. While I was living in Atlanta, and if I was one of those SAG actors, I want to get a character that I can relate to as well.
Gotcha.
Every person wants to see themselves on TV.
Mm-hmm.
When we had the pandemic, every show had a part where they were in the pandemic. Everybody was wearing masks
Right.
and getting tests, all this type of stuff. When cancer became so real, that you had situations on uh, um, Grey's Anatomy where people had cancer. 911, people had cancer. You see the things that we deal with in the world on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're start the world has more openly gay people in it. It's not as secretive as it was back in the day. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to stay relevant as a writer and keep the show going for seasons after seasons, you have to include what we're dealing with in our reality.
Right.
I don't
I
think
see what
it's
you're saying.
necessarily a purposeful agenda trying to make you see it. But I mean, hell, let's look at it like this. Not just power or empire. Look at what they're doing in schools. I don't want to put in
Yeah,
my
you're right.
child's head 4 and 5 years old that you want to be you want to be a girl. No, as a parent, I want to try to teach my child how to be who they are. And as you get older, if you feel like, hey, I'm leaning toward this way, I'm gonna embrace that. But
But
I'm
not at
not
no
about
four
to
or
let
5 years
you
old
yeah, not at 5. You're
where you
not
get
gonna
ready to
be a
try to
little boy
push
telling me that
where you
like
just
you're
be
a girl.
yeah, no. Oh.
I'm gonna embrace you. I'm gonna talk to you, have that conversation. I'm gonna do all of that. But when you this same little boy, when you
Mm-hmm.
get to an age where I know that you still feel that you are this person, once you are 17, 18, 19 years old,
We can talk about it.
okay, let's
Right.
talk about that. But while you 5, you're under my care.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, man.
Now I'm not
You
gonna let nobody bully you,
right.
but as far as changing your name and calling you this, no, we're not gonna do that. Not right now.
Yeah.
My
You.
son wanted a tattoo as soon as he saw mine. I said, when you
Mm-hmm.
turn 18, get your first tattoo.
So if you did that about a tattoo, then we're not gonna let you, because of potential influence or observation, lean
Mm-hmm.
towards something that you may not be, or
Yeah.
we're not gonna
Let's
try to.
say it was a family
Well,
member,
you are
or
different.
it
You are a different brother out of that community, because I know for
absolutely.
a fact, and I would imagine you probably have some spirited conversations about that, because I know for a fact there are some people. I mean, they want you to play with the dolls
Yeah.
instead of play
I'm
football.
not.
And I'm
I'm not.
like,
I'm not.
what?
I'm not gonna force that on my
Yeah,
child.
I don't believe you. Well, that's why I have you on here, man. That's why I have you on
Mm-hmm.
here. So here's the thing. Speaking of that, the children. Okay, so there's obviously and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, which you probably are,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a predatory perception that comes from that community.
Mm-hmm.
Speak on that. And where does that
It
come
kind
from?
of pisses me
I was
off.
molested at 8 years old, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, yeah. I mean,
I was
I
molested
wasn't
at 7.
violated, but I was dealt with, and you could see that little grooming process. So for me,
I'll
I
even
was prejudiced a
I'll
long
say
time. I want
this.
you to speak on that.
I'll say this, bro. I was molested at 7,
Mm-hmm.
and the person that molested me was not gay.
Hmm.
They straight as a board, and
We got to do a part two of this, because
it
that
does.
confuses
And
the hell out of me.
I'll even say this:
I ain't even gonna lie.
every
How you
gay
not
person,
gay?
every gay person is not a predator.
Oh,
There
right,
is
right,
there.
right.
We all have a level of perversion in us, but you have some people who have a little bit more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And there are gay men and gay women that don't have a hidden agenda to molest children and do things like that. But the person that molested me, I don't know whether they were molested or not,
Right.
but I was molested. And like I said, every gay is not a predator to find their next victim. That's not
Mm-hmm.
everybody's story.
And the reason
And
I wanted to
so,
bring that up is because I know that there is a prejudice that exists with the perception that the
mhm.
community is predatory.
Yeah, I mean, it's been said from my understanding
Okay,
that
so it's discussed in the community too.
yeah, that people had to be careful. Eric is gay. It was like, okay, yeah, and what? Well, I didn't want him being there with my son. What? Really?
Right.
Just because I'm gay, you really think that I would touch your son who's like my nephew? Are you
Mm-hmm.
serious?
Right.
But that the thinking that people have, that's the ignorant thinking. The ignorant mindset that some people have. And I mean, once I found out that you think like that, okay, I handle you accordingly. But no, that's not everybody's testimony. That's not
Yeah.
everybody's motive.
I'm looking at some of these comments. Kendra, shout out to you somewhere out on the waters. She's out there cruising in Mexico or Grand Cayman or somewhere. But she says something that I want to just make real clear. Perversion does not mean gay.
Right.
It's important to understand that. And also, going back to what you talked about, and the reason I was talking about the whole agenda thing, empire and power and all that, I brought that up on purpose because I have been guilty of saying how the community is attempting to infiltrate mainstream with this agenda, when in fact, what we're seeing on TV is just a reflection of the mainstream that we're in. So
Absolutely.
there's no sense in getting offended by what you see because it's really only emulating
What's in
reality.
the world? Yes.
I mean, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, do you believe some choose the lifestyle due to preference as much as the belief of those who believe it's a matter of birth? Do you think? Do you think, like for you, you said you just knew it was a preference of yours,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I think I think some people do choose um because you got some freaks in this world. You got some people who are just freaky, and it doesn't matter. A hole is a hole, and it's not necessarily I'm gay or I'm straight or whatever. They'll go for whatever.
Right.
Whoever's down at the time, that's
Yeah,
they roll that
just
way.
get at it.
You got some people like that. So for them, it's a choice.
Hmm.
You got some people that are bisexual. They like male and female equally, and
That's
it's a
amazing.
choice.
Hmm.
And a lot, I've heard some bisexual men say, "When I'm with a woman, I don't fool with men. When I'm with a man, I don't fool with women," and that's their preference. But me, I don't feel like I had a choice. I felt it was the
Mm,
hand that God dealt me, and
mm,
I had to learn how to play the hand that He dealt me.
hmm.
And
That's
so
a good.
that's my prayer was to God, because I prayed for so many years for God to take it away. I wanted to lust after my wife like men lust after women. I wanted that. Trust me, I prayed for it. And if I can't do nothing
Wow,
else, I can pray. And I know
wow,
God hears me. But I
wow.
begged God. I got in every prayer line. I drank holy water. I drank holy oil, all of that. And it never went away. It
That's when
wasn't
they
that I
say,
didn't
"What,
want
pray to get
it.
away."
I wanted to still be married to my wife right now. But I knew that
Wow.
after 11 years, I was not the man that she needed in her life.
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful woman. But I didn't desire her the way she desired me. And she deserves way better than that.
Well, I appreciate you for being responsible and
Definitely.
thoughtful of that. You know.
Yeah, I'd rather see her happy than
Hmm.
miserable in a marriage where she feels unwanted or undesired.
Yeah.
And to this very day, me and her husband are real cool. Me and her have the
Wow.
best relationship. It took us a minute to get there, but we're there.
Right.
And right now, if she called me right now and say, "I need you," I'm on my way.
I believe that. I believe
I'm
that.
my heart of hearts. If she called me right now, I'm on the way. At the end of the day, man, that's the mother of my children. This
Right.
woman gave 3 beautiful children. There's no way possible that I could hate her.
Right.
There's no way possible that I could badmouth her.
Right.
It was so many people fighting against us, wanting her to say this, wanting her to do this and that. And we didn't have any issues. It was people putting in her head that we had issues. I said, "Hey, man, stop letting these people make a fool out of you. I don't have with you. We
Yeah.
tried. I tried. It didn't work. If we didn't do
Yeah.
nothing right, we did 3 things right. Evan, Aaron, and Deuce. We did that right.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
good,
was the
man.
reason God allowed us to come together to bring these 3 beautiful children into the world.
And speaking of that, man, speaking of God, what is your sincere belief about your eternal state as a result of your love choice? And I'm not asking, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
giving you the stage to share that with whoever's listening.
It's simple. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. When I'm in worship, whether I'm at home, in the car, or at church, I am presenting to God Eric in his truth. I'm not pretending to be somebody that I'm not, because he knows all.
He does.
I'm not trying to pretend to be this straight guy in the face of God, because he know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to worship God in spirit and in truth. He knows my strengths. He knows my weaknesses. He knows my perfections, my imperfections. He knows all of that. I'm able to go before God in spirit and in truth. And for the rest of my days, I'm going to present this person to him. He made me.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's anything wrong with it, he's the only one that can fix it.
Yeah.
So
I always say
that's what I.
God's sovereignty doesn't release us from personal accountability because I go to Romans 14 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So then every one of us, regardless of what you believe, regardless of how you love, and all that other stuff that everybody wants to argue about, Romans
Mm-hmm.
14 and 12 says this. So then every one of us shall give account of himself to God. The last thing, man, in closing, how can I, a straight man, no down low, nothing,
Mm-hmm.
100,000% heterosexual,
Mm-hmm.
how can I impact this community? The reason I ask that, I'm a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned with making sure that I can minister to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not concerned with cleaning the fish. My job is to catch them.
Right.
You being a member of that community,
Mm-hmm.
educate me as
Mm-hmm.
quickly as you can on what I can do to impact that community and bring some type of hope to it.
It's I'll say in short, um, prepare a place of love. Be open and receptive for people to feel safe under your leadership. There is a level of holiness in everything. Gay, straight, bisexual, whatever. There's a level of holiness, and if you teach people how to be holy, because your sexual preference don't have to be your God. You still
Mm-hmm.
need to put some time in there for God, for prayer, for meditation, for consecration. There's still a level of holiness. Yeah, that's your sexuality, but you're still called of God. You're still God's child. So at what point of your life do you allow God to come in and work you? When all
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking about is sex, clubbing, drinks, drugs, and all of that, that's your God.
Mm-hmm.
But when you allow to come in and be the focus, then that same gay man, that same gay woman can come to church and be one of your best teachers in your Christian education. They can be one of your best officers in your administrative staff. There's room, there's a place for you in this village is what we in my church in Atlanta. In this village, that my bishop provided an opportunity for everybody, whether it's in the choir, whether it's greeters, or anything. There was a place or space provided for you to serve, and he prepared a place of safety. He taught us how to be disciples of Christ. He taught us how to love people and embrace them from wherever they're coming from. There's a place for you at this church. I'm not concerned about who you sleeping with. I want to teach you how to be a man of God, teach you how to be a woman of God, and those things that God want to take out of you, we're going to let the wheat and the tether and let God do the separating.
And there's my
That's
point,
you.
man. I think that's the
Not your
best.
opinion,
Exactly
but
right.
that. Yeah.
And for those who are in the community of faith, man, that's really the bottom line. My job is not to separate the wheat and the tare. My job is not to sit up here and try to figure out who belongs and who doesn't belong. My job is to sow that seed.
Yeah.
And whatever ground that seed falls on, it will produce the harvest as a result of it. So, man,
Absolutely.
listen, I want to appreciate you, man. I really plan to do some other stuff, man. We're gonna do like a whole rundown where we're gonna deal with the fun and family and talk about some crazy stuff on social media. But I'm gonna bring you back, man. You have been a phenomenal, which I knew you would be. You've been a phenomenal guest, man. You've been a great temple talker. And regardless of what people's positions are, regardless of what they think, regardless of what your theological position is or your theological constitution, at the end of the day, Christ is about love and compassion. We're going to let the wheat and the tare grow together, and we're going to let him separate it in the end. But in the meantime and between time, all of us should find ourselves understanding that there's really only one race, and that's the human race. And when we find ourselves operating with the love that God desires for us to have for his creation, because we're not all his children, but we're all his creation. And when we understand that, I believe that God gets the glory ultimately. And we'll all find out on the other side. Eric, thank you so much, man. Love you, bro.
No problem, bro.
Listen, man, we're bouncing up out of here. Listen to everybody. We're closing out Temple Talk. I want to thank our guest, Eric Davis. Just thank him for such a spirited conversation. Whether you agreed with it or not, whether you liked it or not, whether you affirmed, confirmed, or disavowed it, I wanted to make sure that we had a conversation, because for me, ain't no canceling me. I ain't worried about it. I'm going to say what I need to say, do what I need to do in order to make sure that the truth as we know it comes forth. So when you speak in truth, when you speak the truth from a sincere place with a clear heart and a sincere heart, you are protected. There is no cancellation for those of us who are booked. Until next time, everybody, this is RTM. I'm signing off from the Temple, where we were talking to the Temple. Have a great night.